Welcome to Today Matters, our short devotional in the Word of God. We are in Psalms chapter 10, verses 12 through 18 today. Yesterday, Pastor Tony touched on the first 11 verses of this chapter. Remember in the first part of the psalm, the psalmist has cried out that God seems to be far away from him. Why? He looks at all those who are really bad, the wicked, and he can't understand how they're allowed to continue in their arrogance, that they're even prospering with their vile speech and the violence even. Many times we see the same situation with those who are far from God, and we become kind of frustrated. But we forget to tell God and ask Him to do something about it. So instead of grumbling and complaining or even ignoring God, we need to turn to God with all our heart and tell Him what we see and what we would like to see and what would want, just like the psalmist does in Psalm chapter 10. So, turning to God in prayer, he says this. In this prayer, we see it's a call to action requested of the Lord. Verse 12 says, "Arise, Lord, lift up your hand, O God." We need to remember that we have the right to go before God and request action. No matter what we're feeling or what we're experiencing, we need to turn to God first. In times of trouble and suffering, joy and victory, in times of frustration and confusing, turn to the Lord first. The first step we take is so important for us, as it shows where our faith lies. Let's take a look at verses 13 through 15, which says, "Why does the wicked man revile God? What does he say to himself? Hey, he won't call me to account. But you, God, see the trouble of the afflicted. You consider their grief and take it in hand. The victims commit themselves to you. You are the helper of the fatherless. Break the arm of the wicked man. Call the evildoer to account for his wickedness that would not otherwise be found out." We must remember that God sees everything that is going on. He sees the trouble and the grief of every person. He knows who is the oppressor, the one causing the problems, and the one who is the victim. When the psalmist says, "Break the arm of the wicked man," the arm is used throughout the scriptures as a symbol of power. Remember Moses in Numbers chapter 11. He had questioned what God had told him that he would do. So God responds with, is the Lord's arm too short? God was asking Moses if he thought God had lost his power and that he couldn't act. Well, God fulfilled what he said he would do. Therefore, the psalmist is praying that the power of the wicked will be broken by God. Their power is not greater than God. The plans of the ungodly, the wicked, will never overcome or thwart the purposes of God. Isn't that awesome? So when you pray, remember that you are not helpless or weak. You have the strong arm of the Lord to call upon. Now, continuing with verses 16 through 18, which says this, "The Lord is king forever and ever. The nations will perish from his land. You, Lord, hear the desire of the afflicted. You encourage them and you listen to their cry, defending the fatherless and the oppressed, so that mere earthly mortals will never again strike terror." Well, know that judgment comes. It says that the Lord is king forever and ever. What a comforting thought that this is to us as Christ followers. The Lord is always king, and he maintains power and control. But when bad things, calamities happen, we tend to wonder, where are you, God? Do you really care? Yes, he does. For the psalmist continues, "The nations will perish from his land." Whose land is it? It's his. Everything is the Lord's, and the nations that stand against the Lord will perish. The Lord hears, he listens to the cries of the afflicted. The Lord will encourage those who are oppressed. The Lord defends the fatherless and those who are suffering. Do you find yourself in one of these situations? I know sometimes it seems that God is far off and he's forgotten us, but God is ever present and near. He sees everything and knows everything, and one day soon, I pray, he will make all things new. But in the meantime, I want to encourage you to trust God. He is the only one we should and can turn to in times of trouble and uncertainty. Keep trusting God and believing in him, for today matters.